Good day, brothers and sisters. My name is Dr. Glen T Martin. I'm president of the World Constitution and Parliament Association, and if you just give me a few moments, I'd like to speak with you about the Constitution for the Federation of Earth and about our movement to ratify the Constitution. This is one edition of the Constitution. It's what it looks like, the Constitution for the Federation of Earth, sometimes called the Earth Constitution. I didn't write it, I just wrote the introduction to it. The Constitution also has its famous mandala that depicts the structure of the Constitution that we can look at initially to see what that structure is. The fact is, I'm sure you understand that our world is in grave danger. Right? It's not only in danger from pending climate collapse, which is very, very serious. Scientists give us maybe a decade to radically change the way we pollute the atmosphere and hold the level of warming to about 2 degrees centigrade. If we don't do that, we may enter into a period of uncontrolled global warming that we will no longer be able to slow down. And by the end of the century, it may be the Earth will be uninhabitable for higher forms of life. So this is what we're facing. At the same time, as I'm sure you know, every day we face the possibility of having it all wiped out in nuclear holocausts. I mean, how absurd is this? How absurd is this situation that we've found ourselves in, where the nations cannot get together, right? The nations, the corporations, the powerful, those who run this planet, cannot get together to give us a secure future. Instead, we're always on the brink of possible holocausts and possible destruction. The Constitution for the Federation of the Earth changes all that because it integrates everything on the planet together in a democratic world system. Unless we're operating together, unless we see that politics and economics and environmental protection and human rights, all of this goes together. Unless we eliminate the nearly $1 trillion that's wasted every year on weapons and war, and convert that money to protecting the environment and ending poverty and creating a decent world for everybody on Earth, we don't have a future on this planet. This gives us an integrated and common sense blueprint by which we can do these things. Right? And this the structure of it, which is depicted on the back of the book in the mandala, shows the 3 houses of parliament. The outer house of peoples, 1,000 people from electoral districts all over the world will be the majority in the parliament, right? The diversity of the world, the people of the world will be represented for the first time. Not the 1%, not the powerful nations, not the exploiters or dominators. The people of the world will be there. The second ring shows the House of Nations, about 300 people from around the world in all the nations, so 1, 2, or 3 representatives depending on the size of the nation. So they will be there in the House of Nations, about 300 of them altogether, representing the federation, right? The Earth is a federation. We don't want to abolish the nations. We just want to put them in their proper role in governing the planet. And the role is not to be absolute. It's to have a proper place along with the people of Earth and along with an integrated system, a constitution that protects everybody on Earth, including the nations. That's the role of the nation, right? Not to be the imperial dominators, not to be threatening nuclear war with one another, and so on. So we've got the House of Nations and then the House of Counselors, the inner ring, the green ring, about 200 people chosen in a special way for their wisdom and their high education and their intelligence, who will have a special role in the Parliament. This role is largely a role of nominating who will be leading the various agencies of the Parliament. these nominees will be elected by the whole World Parliament in joint session. Right? So we have about 1,500 people who will be responsible for implementing the Constitution, a Constitution which requires, first of all, ending war and demilitarizing the nations. Second of all, the Constitution requires protecting universal human rights. Third, diminishing social differences and ending poverty. And fourth, just as important, protecting the ecological sustainability of the earth, protecting our planetary environment for ourselves as well as future generations. All these things go together. All of these things are the mandate of the whole government, right? And especially the World Parliament, whose mandate it is to make decent, democratically legislated world laws to make sure these things happen. Inside the 7 different agencies of the integrative complex, from agencies having to do with good elections to agencies having to do with world finances and public banking, to agencies having to do with monitoring the environment and studying world problems to make sure that everything is working together to address these world problems, and there's nothing that we're missing that might throw a monkey wrench into the possibility of having a decent planet. So their knowledge and their expertise will be available to all of the government, to all the departments, all the agencies, the World Parliament itself. It's a brilliant design. It's designed for everybody on the earth to be working together to give us a decent place for ourselves and for our children. So the 4 main agencies are depicted in the inner circle, and you can see that each one of these is a pentagon, right? And very important because they're not run by any one person. It's always a presidium of 5 people, all elected by the World Parliament, nominated by the House of Councillors and elected by the World Parliament. And 1 from each continental division of the earth. So the World Executive will have 1 from each continental division who rotate as chairperson every year, and they serve 5-year terms. The same with the World Judiciary, the same with the World Police and Attorneys General, and the same with the World Ombudsman. Now, the World Ombudsman, right, the 4th main agency of the world government with offices around the world, has a unique function. Its job is to be a watchdog on the government. A watchdog, right? It means that its job is to make sure the police aren't violating human rights, and the corporations aren't violating human rights, and the World Parliament is not violating human rights. Right? Their job is to protect human rights across the board in all ways that these might be violated and so on, and to keep an eye to make sure there's honesty and integrity in the government. So this structure that is depicted in the mandala, it can be depicted in other forms as well. I mean, this is another diagram. You can see the World Parliament contains the 3 houses. The House of Peoples, right? The House of Councillors, House of Nations, right? 1,000 people elected from 1,000 electoral districts around the world. The 4 main agencies of the world government, all underneath the Parliament, right? The Parliament makes the laws. The Parliament is supreme in this system. It's a parliamentary system. So there's no executive that can get out of control, right? There's no military that can get out of control. It's designed for checks and balances, designed to make sure it's democratic. And so underneath the world executive, you have the integrative complex and the various departments of the world government. Right? And this design, it's there in all our literature. It's the basic design. Here's the same thing that we put out in some of our literature in Spanish. Right? The 3 houses, about 1,500 people from all over, from all walks of life, especially the grassroots, 1,000 from the grassroots, making sure this is the first time in history, right, that human beings are represented by the grassroots. Never before has it happened. It's always the elite. It's always the rich. It's always the powerful. It's always the governments of sovereign nation states. Never the people of Earth themselves. Right? This is real democracy. It's the possibility of having a real future on our planet. Right? So go to our websites, right? www.earth-constitution.org. www.earth-constitution.org. You can find the Constitution there, but also in a variety of language at www.worldproblems.net. Worldproblems.net. All right. There's legislation that's already been passed by some 14 sessions of the Provisional World Parliament. We're building it now. We're working on it now. We're working together. And so what I hope you will do is join our effort. It's free. You can get on our mailing list for free. Join our effort. Talk about it. Right? Talk about it. Think about it. Studying it. Form study groups. We need people around the earth. We can't do it alone. We need people around the earth who are excited about the possibility of creating a decent future for their children and a decent system for the whole planet. A peace system, an environmentally sustainable system, a justice system. Right? This is what we need for the earth. Right now, we have none of those things. So get excited about it. Look at it. It's only 30 pages long. Study it. Join us. And let's move forward so that we have a wonderful future for ourselves and our children. Thank you very much for listening. Have a good day and have a good future. Bye.